Right. So let's talk about this case study, this thing that you did. Maybe walk us through that.
Yeah. So in this scenario, and actually, Andrew, I don't know. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, certainly I can do that. So before we jump in, so Grant didn't get much of an opportunity to toot his horn, but what a lot of folks don't know is Grant has a certification called CISSP, which is basically the world's gold standard for security certification. So, like I think 174 countries recognize it as the gold standard. And it gives us the ability to consult with the Department of Defense to build security plans if we wanted to. We don't consult with the Department of Defense, but we could. What we're finding, though, is the real value of this certification is that it gives us access to some very closed door security communities that are working on some very cool things. Grant told me some stories, and he's like, "If you ever speak of this, I'll have to kill you," sort of things. But I mean, like high profile people, high profile things that you hear in the paper the next day. So long story short is at a recent event, Grant was able to bring home a weaponized AI program. And he said, "Hey, I got this. Let's play with it. Let's try it." And we're like, "Oh, okay, sure." Like it was a passing thought, right? And at the leadership meeting the next week, he came, or the ownership meeting, he came to it and was visibly shaken and concerned about what had happened. And we're like, "Well, Grant, come on, tell us what happened." And so basically what this program had done. So I'll walk you through some of our scenario of the anatomy of this. So in every security, you have like your physical layer and you have your logical layer. So physical will be like your doors, your windows, your locks, your cages, all of that. So we did walk this program into our very secured physical data center, and we walked it through the door. But that happens at offices all the time, right? Like people walk past the front desk. And Grant plugged the device or plugged the program into our network, which is extremely locked down, extremely secured, password multi-factored, all of that stuff. And he executed the program, and really it went nuts on us. So it hacked our systems in about 30 minutes. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Tony.
So
Wait a minute. So you guys did this to yourself. That's what you're
yeah.
saying? Yeah.
Well, I'm actually gonna kind of one up you guys on this one. Um, for the purpose of when we were going through this exercise, I wanted to. It's easy for me to walk it past the front door, and everybody's can say, "Well, yeah, I mean, you had access to it. You could plug it into the network." And so I wanted to do it a little bit differently. I said, "Okay, if I was in a client's position, what could this actually do?" Right? And so I actually went out on the dark web, found a client of ours, found credentials. They were using, they had bad password hygiene. I was able to figure out the pattern, the password that they were using, and I actually logged in as them. And so the problem with that is that this client had multi-factor authentication. The end user approved me getting in. Like you go to your point, Tony, where you click on approve more often than you think. And at that point, I bypassed the VPN and I was actually able to drop this into a client network. Now, to be fair, I had access to the network already. I've apologized to the clients already about it. They were actually pretty happy that it happened. And so I was able to do this on a client network in under an hour with no information whatsoever about the client other than what I found on the dark web.
So you physically went out and
No,
grabbed
I,
information that's
yeah,
publicly available on the dark web
yeah, and with a little bit of social engineering, understanding, I was able to figure out what the password was and get in
for one of your clients.
for one of my clients.
Yeah.
But you,
And
okay, so, but you didn't do it. It's not like you did anything with it. You just said,
No, but I did detonate this in a controlled environment, and so it was able to go through the entire network. It was able to, in theory, would have been able to ransomware. It exfiltrated data. I mean, financials, everything like that, in a very short amount of time. And I came and went without triggering any alarms whatsoever.
wow,
Yeah,
on a real
yeah.
client's network.
on a real client's network. Like I said, I apologized. They were happy I did it. Uh, it was one of those things. It's like, is it kind of a gray area? I'm like, well, I do fully manage the network, right? So I already knew it. So actually, this is a screenshot of all the names have been blanked out to protect the innocent. I actually, the system went through and cracked, you can see 7, there was actually more there. But it went through and cracked all these passwords in a very, very short amount of time. So once I had one user's password, I then actually had multiple others, including an administrative account. And this is just because they were weak passwords.
Whoa. So that was, you took somebody and you grabbed their information, you were able to get to their password. And then
Well, I already had,
your,
yeah, I had the user's password that I used to get in. Once I got in, then I ended up getting 6 more passwords, including an administrative account. Once that was in, this is what you see is this is called a kill chain. And so this is the process that the system followed as it went through and compromised some of the computers on the network. And this is what it allows for data exfiltration, things like that. So,
so tell me what
some
we're
of the
looking at here.
yeah, so
There's
some
a
of the
bunch
security
of,
people are looking at it going, "Oh, that's cool." So what we're looking at is each one of these is a step or a process that this weaponized AI took in terms of how it actually got to from step A to step Z in the compromise of the host. And so you can see that it's finding different services, and you can see that it's taking multiple paths and it's trying multiple credentials. And it that's the whole point of AI, right? It can do lots of things at the same time, and ultimately it compromised the host and grab the local admin creds. And at that point, game over, right? I own the network. Um, I can grab any data I want. It's yeah.
so, for the layman on the call, the marketing guy or whatever, the information, I get passwords. Now you're into systems. It's like, okay, so what if you have information and passwords? What do they actually do with it? And we hear about ransomware. It's like, oh, you don't
Yeah,
have access to the system now. I'm going to shut it down if you don't pay me.
great
That's the
question.
popular one. But
Yeah, so credentials allow you to get access to the system. Once you have access, is what you do with the data. So in most scenarios, what you're going to see is you're going to have somebody that's going to live in that network for as long as they can. I came and went quickly just to make sure I wasn't getting detected. But most time they're going to stay there. They're going to find as much information that they can find on the network, and if they have administrative rights, they can find all the information on the network. And then they're going to exfiltrate that data, which means they're going to pull it off your network. They're going to turn around and use it for, potentially ransomware number 2, or they're going to do some sort of blackmail with it. And then ransomware actually only happens. That's like, the piece of resistance. That's what they're doing on when they walk out the door, right? They've already done all their damage in the network. They've grabbed all the financial data that they could. They might have even hung around for a little bit and done some business email compromise, trying to do some extortion, wire transfers, things like that. Then the last piece is the ransomware, and that's when they come back for as much money as possible. Most likely, whatever your insurance is going to pay.
yeah, cybersecurity insurance, that's a big topic.